We've got breaking news, and it ain't what they're selling you on TV. The Supreme Court has turned away a big old challenge to bans on AR-15s and your standard capacity magazines. The media is already making a fuss, calling it a win for gun safety. But let's set things straight. This wasn't a ruling. It was more like a refusal, a shrug, a planned hush that speaks louder than words. They didn't say those bans were constitutional. They just said, not today. And for those who still reckon rights need protecting, not postponing, that ain't justice. It's more like leaving folks hanging. This ain't just one case or one state. It's part of a bigger plan. Delay, distract, deny. They're banking on us giving up, hoping we quit paying attention. But the truth is, they ain't afraid of AR-15s. They're scared of what those rifles stand for, the idea that power's in the hands of folks, not just politicians. So don't let them headlines fool you. This is far from finished. It's about time we lay out what's really happening here. Here's the roundup. The Supreme Court had a chance to hear a case challenging Maryland's assault weapons ban, a law that's been around since 2013. It bans what they call assault rifles like the AR-15 and magazines holding more than 10 rounds. Gun rights folks have been fighting this law for years, saying it's a Second Amendment breach. The case finally reached the highest court, and the court said, no, not no. The law is valid. Not no, the Constitution doesn't apply here. Just no. No hearing, no explanation, no ruling, just silence. And let it be clear that silence ain't by accident. Saying nothing still says plenty. It's like telling law-abiding folks their rights can wait, that the Constitution is up for debate depending on who's calling the shots. And justice put off is just playing it safe while acting neutral. What they aren't telling you is, this ain't the first time. Again and again, courts pick the easy road, hoping the issue just fades away. But for many Americans, this ain't just noise. It's the forefront. This choice means the lower court's ruling favoring the ban still stands, at least for now. And with that, a dangerous precedent stands too. A core constitutional right stripped away, not by debate, but by delay. And yet some call it a win. A win for who? For politicians who've hardly held a rifle but love making rules about them. For media voices who've never fired a shot but claim to know what's safe. Or for those who reckon freedom should be measured, managed, and ultimately surrendered. Nope, this wasn't a win for public safety. It was a win for ducking responsibility. A win for political theater dressed up as legal restraint. But don't mistake silence for victory. Even if the court didn't speak today, millions of Americans still will. And what we say matters, especially when the folks in power act like we ain't around. To understand how we got here, go back to a terrible moment, etched in this land's memory, Sandy Hook. 20 little children, 6 adults, 1 evil man with a stolen AR-15. That day was tearing, awful, and real. But what came after wasn't just mourning, it was legislation. In the wave of sorrow and public pressure, lawmakers in Maryland moved quick. Emotions were up, cameras rolling, and the word safety became a political shield. What's the outcome? One of the toughest assault weapons bans in the country. The hitch is laws fashioned in panic often don't protect anyone. Instead, they punish the wrong folks and sidestep the real issues. Rather than chasing down criminals, the state went after tools. Instead of zeroing in on enforcement, it focused on the optics. They didn't target violence, they targeted ownership. The truth is, none pushing these laws face the music when they flop. Because it ain't ever really about results. It's about the headlines, about speeches for re-election, and press conferences filled with buzzwords like common sense and responsible reform. But here's what they won't tell you. Every time they use fear to push another restriction, they're chipping away at something bigger than just hardware. They're eroding trust, autonomy, and the notion that free citizens can and should be trusted to defend themselves. Because when fear is writing the laws, freedom's always paying the price. This isn't just a legal call. It's a calculated move. Every time a court kicks the can down the road, the other side acts like it's some big win, not because they've truly won a real argument, but because they've bought more time. Time's their tool. Each month this ban stays in place, they tighten the grip, shaping the story to suit them, training the next generation to think these laws are the norm, hoping the courts sway their way in time. They don't need to win today. They just want us to get tired, stop pushing, start thinking maybe this fight ain't worth it. That's how you lose a right, not all at once, but bit by bit. They ain't waiting for justice. They're waiting for the bench to flip, for political winds to shift, for justice to retire, and a new leader to appoint someone who treats the Constitution like it's a living document that breathes just enough to suffocate your freedom. They say patience is a virtue, but in this game, it's a tactic, and they're playing it well, because they know one thing: if they can keep the court quiet long enough, they don't need a ruling. The law becomes reality just by sitting still. And every day we hold off, they push forward. Let's cut to the chase. This isn't about AR-15s. They say it is. They point to that rifle, the shape, the bits and bobs, the black finish, and claim that's the issue. But they're all aware that ain't the real worry. They're not afraid of guns. They're afraid of what they signify. Because the AR-15 isn't just some firearm. It's a statement. It says you handle your own safety. It says you don't believe protection should depend on a slow phone call or a late siren. It shows you know your freedom has weight and you're willing to bear it. Showing you can take care of your own safety just proves their system of control ain't something you need. And for folks wrapped in power, nothing's more threatening than someone not needing their ways. So they paint the rifle as a villain, not because of what it does, but because of what it stands for. Because if enough folks begin to reckon they can fend for themselves, who's left asking for permission? They skip facts, toss out labels like extreme, paranoid, dangerous. That's their new game plan. They don't have to pass a law if they can just shame you into silence. And they've made it work. Turn on the news, scroll through your social media, sit in a classroom, and the message is loud and clear. Love this country. You're backwards. Believe in freedom. You're a threat. Carry a gun. You're the villain in their story. But here's the truth. Wanting to protect your kin ain't extreme. That's not violence. It's vigilance, and it's nothing to be shameful of. The ironies, the ones preaching tolerance can't stand anyone who thinks differently about safety. Well, not here. Not today. We don't answer to hashtags. We don't buckle under pressure. And we don't need a cultural permission slip to exercise a right we were born with. Rights don't fend for themselves. They're guarded by folks who won't stay quiet. Every time a court stalls, every time a lawmaker steers clear, every time a platform hides the truth, we push back. Not with violence, but with clarity, presence, and the unbreakable belief that freedom's worth backing out loud. You don't need a title to speak. You don't need a green light to care. You just need the resolve to stand tall, say, this matters. Because the minute we stop speaking, that's the minute they quit pretending to listen. What went down at the Supreme Court wasn't an end. It's the continuation of a long, quiet struggle. One not just over rifles or magazines, but over meaning, values, and who gets to decide what freedom looks like in this country. The refusal to hear the case wasn't neutral. It was a silent message wrapped in silence. And that silence will be fuel for those who think your rights are negotiable, temporary, or optional. But history don't veer off by accident. It shifts when folks stand up, won't be sidelined, won't let their rights be boiled down to political buzzwords. This moment, like so many others before, is an invitation not just to pay attention, but to stay involved, grounded, and to push back against a system that prefers to delay justice rather than define it. The Constitution doesn't expire just cause the news cycle spins. And the right to bear arms was never just about hunting. It was about responsibility, security, and the understanding that liberty doesn't come from a court ruling. It comes from resolve.